Hey everyone, this is Tom here at Tropical Escapes at Home, and today we have a really wonderful guest joining us. Melissa Rodway has been kind enough to carve out some time from her day to join us and give us a glimpse into her life when it comes to her travel experiences, what's motivated her to get into travel, and give us an insight into her show because she's also a podcast host and she's got a lot of great topics there, a lot of great guests, and she'll be able to give us a little bit of insight into the content of her show there. She's got a book out as well. And I did specifically want to mention that because I love people who are new authors and I love to promote people however I can. But for everyone out there, Melissa is the host of the Fly Travel Radio podcast, and she is the author of the book, The People You Meet, which is a travel memoir about backpacking through Southeast Asia. Very, very cool. Blending honest reflections and plenty of humor. And her book has made it to the Amazon bestseller list twice for several weeks, which is very nice. So, Melissa, thank you. Welcome to the show. I do want to mention really quickly that on your website, I read your intro page, and you have a little section there called Shooting from the Hip, which I just loved. And I thought, wow, her story is a lot like mine. So, I want to link to your website. I do want to put a link in the show notes. So do you mind if I link specifically to that page? Because I think it could speak to a lot of people and help a lot of people.
I would love for you to link to any page. Go for it. I'm happy. That's why we do these things, right? It's really nice to connect people and for people to find some recognition in their own struggles. So yes, you go crazy. Link it up.
I will do that. Thank you so much. So why don't you just go ahead and let's just jump in. Tell us a bit about who you are and your background and how you were able to connect the dots of life to get to where you are with your love for travel.
All right. So I am Canadian. I live in Toronto. I didn't grow up here. I'm from a small town called Port Perry, which is about an hour and a bit outside of Toronto. I can tell you that as a young girl in 1981, my dad moved us to Australia for a year. He was a teacher at the time, and we did what was very common back then, or maybe it wasn't as common as I think as I start telling this story to other people. We did a teacher's exchange. So we swapped houses. My dad swapped jobs with a teacher in Australia, and we went and lived in a very small, remote bush town just outside of Perth in Western Australia. It was called Roleystone. And I was 7 at the time. And we had to walk through a very remote bush path to get to school. And our school was in the middle of nowhere in the wilds of Western Australia. So that was a pretty formative adventure for a young person. I have a very good memory, so I do remember quite a bit of it. And back then, there weren't the recording devices we have now. So my dad was planting tape recorders all around our house to catch our accents because we developed them quite quickly. So that was pretty huge, I think, for me to see that there was life elsewhere in another place. And we did a lot of traveling in that year. We went to Bali. There was nobody in Bali at the time, in terms of tourists. Oh. My hair was very, very white, blonde, and all of the locals were constantly touching me and giving us chocolate and just like wanting to be around us. My sister was 12 and very tall at that time, and all the men were trying to marry her. And it was a very interesting time. And we also rented a van and traveled around New Zealand and then traveled around a lot of Australia. So I would say that was a pretty big deal for that time. And again, the 80s, you were pretty detached. My parents were probably just writing letters to their brothers and sisters and parents and the odd phone call, but it was a different world. So anyway, that was probably what started off a love of adventure, I guess. And I won't go through every part of my life, but, high school, I did an exchange to Belgium and things like that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I lived in various parts of Canada. Lived in the Rocky Mountains for a bit in Jasper. I lived out west in on Vancouver Island in Victoria. I moved to Montreal and then to Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you had a lot of great exposure at an early
I
age
had I had some
where,
good exposure. Yeah, we were very
yeah.
encouraged in my family to go and do things and to do them on your own, not to go with friends,
Hmm.
to meet new people, that kind of stuff. So, yeah,
Awesome.
that was a huge thing.
I think that's wonderful. I wish more people had those kinds of opportunities. I didn't, I mean, we took the little family vacations. I mean, long story short, my mother was French Canadian. She's from Montreal. My father was Hungarian. And it was after the war. He, with a brother of his, they fled Europe and landed in Canada, and then met my mom there. And then they wanted to move south because my mom did not like the winters in Canada, and they were supposed to go to Florida, and they ended up in San Diego on vacation and then never left. So we did the usual travel out there, the Grand Canyon, the national parks, and things like this. International travel, we really didn't do. They didn't have the budget for that. But I always kind of felt like we had in some way traveled because there was very little English spoken in my house growing up. There was a lot of French. If my dad would get upset, he'd start going off in Hungarian, which he never taught us. And then people that would come to visit were always from Europe, or it was the Canadian family coming down. So yeah, I didn't grow up with the football and the baseball and all of this. It was a very international environment
Yeah,
there
that's
in San
cool.
Diego.
Yeah.
But I always loved that.
Yeah.
And I have two brothers and a sister, and I mean, they're wonderful people, but they just never really that travel bug, that whole international aspect never really bit them like it did with me. And I was just fascinated with travel from a young age, and I wanted to go see every planet from A to Z. I knew world geography. I knew all the countries. I could name all the capitals. And so when I hear stories like yours, I think it's just wonderful because it's such a formative thing. It just exposes you to life outside of your little bubble. And I think here in the US, um, there's just so much going on in the bigger cities. People are busy. They get married, they raise their families, and they don't travel. I mean, traveling is, if you're in Houston like I am, traveling is going to Miami, which we absolutely love Miami, or going back to see some family in San Diego. But to me, that's not travel. Yeah, I took my wife to Montreal back in 2017. She had never been to Canada. I love Montreal. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
Wonderful
cool.
city.
Yeah.
It's like going to Europe without leaving the continent.
Yes, very, and Quebec City even more so, actually.
Yes, we would love to make that journey in the summertime sometime. So with those experiences from the childhood, though, I mean, then that just kind of culminated into adulthood, and so now you have your podcast, and you have such a wide range of guests and topics, and I'm starting to listen through. I want to carve out time and just listen to some more of your episodes because each one is so different, and your guests just have so much to say that it's very educational for me. And it's like, oh, what a great idea. I'd love to go see that, or I'd like to go do this. Tell us about your podcast and how you got involved in that.
Well, I'm going to be very honest right now and tell you that my podcast is on hiatus at the moment. However, I
Oh,
started it in I don't remember, 2016 or 2017. So the story there is that it kind of comes after my book. My book I just released, but the story about my book happened in 2010. So we can talk about my book in a minute, but the sequence here
okay.
is that I did this trip to Southeast Asia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and then China in 2010.
Hmm.
We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then when I got back from that, I really I'd quit my job. I was 35, and I don't recommend that to a lot of people, but I did it at the time, and then I had to rebuild my life a little bit. So I went back to university because I had made some crazy decisions in my 20s, and I decided at 36, I guess, 36, 37 to finish my degree. And while I was at University of Toronto, I happened upon the community radio station there. And I had always wanted to get into journalism or radio or whatever it is or was, because I love all that kind of stuff. But for some reason, I just didn't follow that path when I was younger. So when I was there in my 30s, I had the opportunity to get involved with a community radio station. And long story short, I ended up creating my own show. So it's
Oh, wow.
Fly Travel Radio, and it was a radio show for many, many years. For most of the years, actually, it was on air. And I created it because I didn't have any money to travel for a while. And that was sort of my way to travel without traveling, and also to have the adventure of broadcasting and learning how to interview. And I was self-taught. I mean, they just throw you into the fire there. So that's what I did for 6 years, I think. I did over 180 episodes. And the radio show morphed more into a podcast before podcasts became as explosive as they are now. It was funny because I remember at the time the manager was like, "Oh, Melissa, no one wants to hear anyone talk for an hour." And lo and behold, now that's what everyone is doing. So I guess I was ahead of the
Here
curve.
we are.
But yeah, I love the show. I met so many people. My guests range from, someone who has walked the length of Africa to someone who cycled home from Canada to China.
Yeah.
Everyone and everything that was off the beaten path. So it was fascinating. As you know, you really develop a sense of community with some very, very interesting people. And
Mhm.
yeah, I loved it. And then in 2023, I took a year off. I didn't quit my job this time, but I was able to take a leave from my job. And that's why my podcast had to go on the shelf for a bit. So in 2023, I did some more traveling. And then when I came back from that, I decided to publish this book, which required some work. So you just can't do it all, is where I'm leading, and something had to go.
Yes.
Yes. But
Yeah, I know that
yeah,
feeling.
but I think the episodes are timeless. Really, you learn a lot about the world and people, and I'm glad people are enjoying them. And I might venture back into it and dust off the old microphone there, but I just need more time.
It is a time commitment. It definitely is. And I mean, one of the reasons why I chose to start this was because I had this crazy idea. And, the similarities, you go to school for one thing, you end up doing another, and then you end up quitting when you shouldn't, and you go out on your own, and you're like, oh, I have to go back to work because this isn't going to last for very long. And I've been down that road. And when the idea for what I do for Tropical Escapes at Home came, it was inspiration from a trip to Fiji. And the long story short was we were invited to go with some friends. My wife and I bought our tickets. The friends couldn't go. The tickets were non-refundable. And we said, let's just go. So we went through Costco Travel because they have some really nice packages. And I said, I don't want to stay at a Marriott or a Sheraton or any of this stuff, which you can do anywhere. I said, I want something authentic Fijian, something nice, something 5-star, all inclusive, something off the beaten path. And so that's when Costco found Matangi Private Island Resort. So we went down to Matangi, and it was life changing. It was, it was just life changing. And we were on the flight home, and I said, there's no way I am leaving this as something you check off a bucket list. There's so many people I know who've traveled once to some wonderful exotic place like Thailand or Bali, and they've never done anything after that. And I'm like, no. And, we weren't really in a position to travel a lot either. We had the 3 boys and all of this, and I was taking care of my elderly father. So I said, I've got to do something else where I'm not physically on a plane all the time, or something that just requires a huge travel budget. And I love to write, and I thought, and I love interior design. I love the way people do their houses, and just you either do it beautifully or you do it not beautifully. And I'm a big believer in your surroundings at home create your mental state. And I know a lot of people who work in offices, they're gone 5 days a week. They're not found at home. To me, that makes it all the more valuable, is you need a space at home that speaks to you. It's got the right energy there. Everything just comes together in a beautiful visual way, which is healing mentally and physically, and just brings that peace and relaxation. And, whether you're religious or not, whether you're into meditation or not, it doesn't matter. You can bring those things in. And I thought when traveling, people take these wonderful tropical vacations. They'll go to Bali or places like this, but why? What are you looking for? What is it you're expecting to get out of this? There's a reason why you're going. And then 9 times out of 10, when people go and they have a wonderful time, they don't want to come home. Why is that? How can we bridge the two? How can you connect that experience to your home? No, we can't put a crashing wave in your living room or the ocean shore, and I can't put palm trees in your yard if you live in Ontario, Canada, but you can do the next best thing. And that is from an authenticity standpoint, a cultural standpoint, what you saw when you were there. This is one of the things that I'm working on, is to kind of create like either an app or a checklist or something where people can take when they travel. And instead of just hitting the bar out by the pool the first thing when you get there, notice everything. You just took time off. You're spending your hard-earned money. You're going to these far-off places. Notice what you're looking at from the moment you get there. You step in the hotel lobby, you get into your room. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you even smell? Just and make notes of this. Just capture it somehow. Take pictures of everything. I discovered in Fiji, when this concept came up, I went back to meet with wood carvers and local artists and all of this. And it was wonderful that when you go to some of these resorts, sometimes the artwork is for sale and it's not expensive, and it's to promote the local artists and craftsmen there. And then the hotel simply buys from them and replaces it. So that gave me the inspiration to do what I do. And then again, long story short, just with the podcast, I wanted to tell people about this so that you can create a little extension of that vacation at home. And when you contacted me, I thought, for somebody that's traveled as much as Melissa does and loves travel as much, even more so, because you've got this wealth of knowledge in all of these countries you visited, and you get into the cultural aspect of it, which to me should be a primary focus of travel. And anybody can go stay at a hotel. Anybody can order a drink at a bar. You've chosen a country for a specific reason. Immerse yourself however you can. So that's my little story about what I'm doing. I hope life takes you in a direction where you can get back to your podcast, because it's good.
Thank you.
The episodes I've listened to, they're good. And to my listeners out there, I'll connect you to the episodes that Melissa has published, because really they're very, very well done. They're so interesting. And you have a great website. I love your website because it's not all flashy and slick with all the latest techie stuff, but you tell an excellent story. All the nuts and bolts are there about who you are, what you did, why you did it. I mean, that to me is what people need to know.
Well, that's kind. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, yeah.
I had to put that
Thank
out there.
you. I also I have to say I don't post as much to my website as I should. And if you want more of that, Instagram is where I put everything lately. And that's fly_travel_media. And it's the same there. I mean, I don't know how to do anything without being authentic about how I feel, about what's happening, where I am, what the situation is. So that is just what you see is what you get with me. So whether it's my website or the podcast or my Instagram account, that's kind of the same rhythm everywhere.
Well, yeah. And again, it takes a lot of time to do all of that. And I'm a little bit like that too. I'm a one-man show, and I'm like, well, I can't give you what I don't have. So I'm going to give you the best I got right now. But it's been good. So one thing I did want to ask you is, with all the traveling you've done, what's been your favorite place? What are your favorite types of countries and adventures?
So this is like asking what child is your favorite. So you can't answer it. But I think that I'm more drawn to certain parts of the world. So I would say that my favorite places are anywhere Spanish speaking. So I really love Central America. I love the sort of carnival circus-like atmosphere that happens there the second you land. I also like French speaking places. I am from Canada. Doesn't mean that everyone in Canada speaks French. Actually, very few of us seem to these days. But there's something about those environments. I spent 5 weeks in Quebec City 2 years ago, which I really love. But I think it's an interesting question because if you travel a lot, anyone will tell you that you have a natural feeling wherever you land that either you belong or you don't. So when I ever I
Right.
land in like Central America, South America, I don't speak Spanish very well, but I as soon as I get there, I feel like I'm way more relaxed. I feel like something clicks for me, like I get it, I belong there. When I have been in places like, well, Southeast Asia, which is what my book is about, I thought it was very lovely. I like the food, but I did not for 1 second feel that same sort of connection that I feel in Latin parts of the world, Latin speaking areas. So um, I think that's a very interesting thing about traveling. I think if you ask anyone that travels a lot, they will tell you the same things, and that for some weird reason, some places click with you and some places don't. And I did interview
Yeah.
someone on my show who believed in past lives and or believes in past lives, and he's a traveler. And his belief is that when you don't feel the same sort of like, I belong here feeling, it's because in your past life you either did not spend enough time there or something terrible happened to you in that place. So look that interview up. It's fascinating. Yes.
Really, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm the same way, and my wife is too. There's just places we connect. I mean, well, even here within the US, I mean, again, being from California, she's born and raised, well, she was actually born in Korea, but came to Houston when she was very young. We don't have any family in Florida. We've never lived in Florida, but when we go to South Florida, Miami area, it just clicks. We don't speak Spanish, but yeah, we go down there. We don't have to. It just I would learn it in a minute if I could. I'm actually not bad with languages, but there's just a click. There's an energy. There's a vibe. There's something there. And it was the same when we went to Fiji. Something just clicked, and it's just. And even though there's lots of Australians and lots of people from New Zealand there, the whole thing was just there was something magical about it. There was nothing that felt like this, like we made a mistake, like this was just not the right
Yeah.
thing. I've been to places like when I lived in Europe, I got to travel quite a bit. I used to work for the airlines back in the day. And so I did travel around in Europe quite a bit. And there's parts of Europe that I love, and there's other parts of Europe. Okay, I don't have to come back.
Yeah, I know it's so interesting that for me too with Europe.
Yeah.
Europe's a late discovery for me actually. I didn't do a lot of Europe. I mean, I backpacked Europe when I was 19, but I was so stupid. I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was doing. But now in my life I feel like Europe's becoming quite interesting to me. But yeah, I feel like whenever people find out my book is about Thailand and that part of the world, they're just like, oh my God, you must love it. Do you go back? How many times have you been? I'm like, I don't ever need to go back. Once was enough for me. And for most people, that's like their go to, that part of the world. And for great reasons. You know, it's cheap, it's beautiful, nice beaches, whatever. But it just did not resonate with me. Cambodia, yes, I loved it, but I don't need to go back there either.
Oh, well, then you have the
Mm-hmm.
book. It's available out on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. I have to ask you, tell us about the book. I think that's just a very interesting point of view that you would write about places that you wouldn't go back to. I mean, that's just not something that you hear every day. Most people write about places that they just fall in love with, and which is fine. But yeah, just you got to tell me about the book.
Well, yeah, and before I do so, for me, I actually rarely go back anywhere. New York City is one of the only places I will go repeatedly because I love it. Mexico, because Mexico is massive and there's lots to see there. But most places, if I have spent enough time there, I don't really go back because I feel there's a lot more to see and I don't want to repeat it. So
Mhm.
anyway, that's what I think about that. But the book. So the book is called The People You Meet, and I learned later that there's a lot of books called The People You Meet. So if you're gonna read it, look for the one by me, Melissa Rodway. Anywho, this is what happened. So when I was 35, I had a partner who worked in luxury travel. So he was going on a trip, a long, long trip through those countries that I mentioned and some extras to research luxury hotels as well as make some business connections and just figure out some adventures, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not an idiot. I was like, I'm coming. Yes. And off we went. But, I was 35 and now I'm 50 and 35 seems really young. But even still at 35, you're not 25. And so after a few weeks, got a little bit cagey, I guess, because I didn't really have a purpose. I love travel. I had been on many trips at that point. So I loved adventure. I loved all of it. But when you're on a long haul trip like that for months and months on end, you can start to get a little
Yeah.
bit like it gets a little
It
crazy.
gets
Yeah, it
old.
gets old.
Yeah.
And he had a purpose, I didn't. So we were on these very long buses and trains, sometimes up to 36 hours. And this was, 2010, so we didn't have cell phones. So once a week, I was
Mhm.
hitting up the internet cafe or a hotel lobby where there might be a computer. But while I was on these buses and trains, I was like creating these stories in my head about what I was seeing, what I was doing, what was happening. And then once a week, I was churning them out to friends and family, just more to like help inform them. But I started really getting into it because I like to write. I love humor. I have a very different, not a different tone, but my tone is to just speak directly to people, tell them exactly as it is. And they started sending the emails to other people within their network. So, long story short, 15 years later, I took those emails and turned them into this book. So, in some ways, I'm an idiot. In 2010, blogging was hitting, and I should have just been blogging at the time,
Yeah.
and I missed my mark there. However, in editing these emails 15 years later, I probably would have been in a lot of trouble because, as we know, once something's on the internet, it doesn't come off. And the things we said in 2010, we certainly don't say them in 2015. So a part of me is like, thank God I didn't do that. So,
Yeah.
life works in weird ways. But no, it's a really good book. It will teach you a lot about that part of the world, in terms of language, culture, food, geography, history. You'll feel like you're there on the journey with me doing all these things. And some people are like, thank God you did it. And I didn't have to because it's not all rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. Traveling's
Oh,
hard. There's a few things in there that
yeah.
are like, oh my. And yeah, more than anything, it's very, very honest. I have a very
Hmm.
self-deprecating sense of humor, and I'm not afraid to, tell you what I think and feel and where I'm at. And also having, edited it as a 50-year-old and I'm no longer 35. I really actually was very true to who that person was. I didn't change anything. I haven't changed that much. I'm not going to lie, but I certainly don't drink the way that I used to. That's for sure.
Oh, you change. Yeah, you change. Look,
Mm.
let's just say I'm older than you, so I've been there, done
Yeah.
that.
So that was like, wow, I was reading through
So,
this going, oh my. But whatever. I was like,
yeah.
that's the story, that's who I
Mhm.
was, that's what we're writing about. So anyway, that's the pitch there about the book. But it's if you
Well,
like to travel, it's great. If you don't like to travel, it's also great because it's a really good armchair adventure. So yeah,
yeah.
people love it. So it's good.
I'm going to link to it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to link to it. And it makes me think, geez, because I was 22 when I moved to Europe the first time getting married. It's like stupid. It was just such a stupid thing. And the sad part is, as I look back at it, getting around Europe as much as I did, you don't appreciate it like you do in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. I'm pushing 60 here. So, now that my kids are grown, I want to get my wife over there and go back and revisit some of these places. And again, my dad's from Hungary. I do have family in Belgium, and they're wonderful people. They've come over to visit. I've been there, and I've got a few friends in France, and Again, my wife's never been, but yeah, you see it from a different perspective and you tell it like it is.
Totally.
And if there's something stupid about it, you put it out there so other people don't do something stupid.
Well, yeah, and I
Yeah.
learned a very big lesson, excuse me, on this trip, that's in the book,
Hmm.
and I think that was due to age as well. So I met this woman when we were traveling, and she at the time was probably in her 50s, and had done more than anyone I'd ever met, and was fascinating and just super inspiring. She was a legend. And I remember being with her one day. We were in northern Laos, and there were these two young girls that were probably 25, backpackers. And she was watching them and then just looked at me and said, they need to go home. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because, there's a lot of ego in travel sometimes when you're younger about who's on the
Hmm.
road longest, how many stamps you have in your passport, who's been to the most countries. And there's sometimes this like, I'm just going to keep going and going and going. But she looked at them and she said, they are done. They have had it and they need to go home. And that was the
Interesting.
first time I'd ever heard that, where she said it's just as important to know when the trip is over as it is to even be there. And sometimes you're done and you've got to go home and regroup, and there's nothing wrong
Hmm.
with that. And that happened to me on this trip as well. And so it was interesting that she had taught me this. And 4 months after my, I'd been on the road for 4 months, and then I too was like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm not enjoying it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's becoming a job. It's not interesting. It's becoming work. And that's when it's time to go.
Yeah. That very, very good point. And if you don't have the opportunity then to go and live
Yeah.
there, because I could not have imagined traveling around Europe for 4 or 5 months. I wouldn't say that I'm a homebody, but everywhere that I've lived, I've enjoyed being
Oh
home.
yeah.
I mean,
Me too.
I've always had a very, comfortable place to live. I mean, I didn't grow up in a wealthy family or anything, but what mom and dad did was nice, and it was just always comfortable. And I had my friends and places that we'd go out. And, you grew up in a place like San Diego, which was wonderful back in the 70s and 80s. Today, I only go back because I have a little bit of family and friends there. Otherwise, I'd never set foot in California again. But it's just horribly overbuilt, horribly expensive. But it was always a very comfortable place to be. And then, just moving around, moving to Texas and things like this. But when I lived in Europe, there you have to make it work. And when you're a foreigner, and even as an American in Switzerland, you're a foreigner and they let you know. I'm not sure how it is today, but back then there was, it was pretty rough. But I had my work permit and I was able to work. So I lived the life. The hardest thing for me there was the cold weather. I am not a cold weather person. The older I get, I hate it. I'm a weenie. I'm a proud weenie. I just can't do it. It's not for me. That's why my show is all about the tropics, as you see here.
Yes, that's nice.
So you will find me in Thailand and in Bali and places like this very
Hmm.
easily. But even in Europe, we had a nice little apartment. It was in an old building that had been renovated. We had the attic had been turned into an apartment. It was actually very, very cool. We had our own pizza oven in there, which was really neat. So, I like to be at home, but so I was able to survive that. We were there for 4 years, and then 1992, I could actually make a movie out of that year. It was a total soap opera, but ended up moving to San Francisco. And then that's where I met my current wife. And San Francisco, back then, it was a very nice place. I mean, kind of like living in a theme park, but when you're from San Diego, you can say that because it's the Golden Gate Bridge and it's all the touristy things you go do. But again, it was a weather thing. It's a very cloudy, windy, cold place. I'm like, didn't I just leave this behind in Zurich? So, um, but I can imagine, yes, after spending months on the road and you're not at home, you're living in a hotel, or if you're even roughing it. I've had friends that have gone 6 months, and I just, they rent the motorhome in Australia and they tour around, and then they're camping in these campgrounds. And oh, I'd be like, no,
Hard.
that would be very, very
It's
long.
hard. Like, and 90% of this trip was backpacking, 10% was luxury. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's tiring. And we were on the road like probably every 2 days. You're, on the bus, on the train, on something to get to your next place. Like it is. And people who've never done it don't get it. They just think, oh, aren't you lucky? And must be just bliss all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
actually, no.
No. And backpacking, to me, backpacking is not a long-term thing. I've never been a big fan
Hmm.
of it, but I think it would be very interesting to do, obviously, at a younger age. But for a specific amount of time in a specific area to see specific things. But then you have a starting point, you have an end point, and then you're
Yeah,
done. But just to go open ended and then, oh, okay, now we've done that. Where do we go from here?
it's a lot of work.
No, that's yeah. I'm much more the luxury hotel
Oh,
person
they are
nowadays.
nice. Yeah, I do enjoy them too. I don't have them in as
No,
much in my life as I used to, but yes, welcome at any
yeah.
time.
No, a good Mai Tai on the beach and I'm happy.
Yes.
So so now that you have the book out, what is next for you? I mean, are there any more travel plans? Is there some place you haven't been to yet that maybe you want to get to, or maybe another book coming? You
Um,
have to tell us what's next for you.
yeah, I mean, there's always a new place to go. What I do now is mainly active travel, so hiking trips and cycling trips while I still can. That's my priority. So those I really love, but I've never been to Africa, any part of Africa, so I feel that's something I have to do. India, I've also never been. I've been to Nepal. I've not been to India. I've not been to Sri Lanka. So that also, although I'm a little terrified, feels like that's something I also need to do. Um, but it's funny you mentioned like Europe. There's parts of Europe that really call to me. I've been to England. I've spent quite a lot of time there, but never been to Ireland, never been to Scotland, never been to Wales. There's something about that it feels to me also like how I feel about Latin America. Maybe my roots way down the line are English Irish, so maybe there's something to do with that. I don't know. But in Scandinavian countries, I do love winter. I do love the cold. So that's appealing. But there's also parts of Canada. Canada, just like the States, is massive
It's
and the
huge.
geography
Yeah.
is unbelievable. I just spent a few days in Prince Edward Island, which is a very small province in Canada. Had never been. And anytime I do anything in Canada, I'm like, why am I going anywhere else? Because it's very beautiful and there's so many
It
things to
is.
discover here. But yeah, that's human nature, right? We always want what isn't ours and, the exotic and something far away. But yeah, there's always a new place to go to. But another book is possibly in me. I took a year off in 2023, and there's certainly some things that happened there that are worth writing about. And I do like that. I do like that dialogue. Like, if you read my book, you will feel like it's just you and me on this trip. And I like that sort of creativity while also kind of educating people about the world. But I'm not a like,
Mhm.
do this, do that, see that. It's a very subtle way of exploring a place. So possibly another book. Yes, I love to write, but it's a lot of work.
Well, it is. That's something
Mm.
I haven't done a book. I did the blogging for quite some time, but even that's very
Mm-hmm.
time consuming now. And like you said, it was really big back in 2010, 2011. And I think blogs are still working today. I enjoy podcasting a lot
Yeah.
more. I have the YouTube channel. I am not a tech savvy person, but I've learned how to do this. I've learned how to edit video, so I can do it. It's just a quicker way for me to get information out there. Plus, you get to meet really cool people too, and I've just loved doing the podcast and the people that I've had on the show. I've met people that I would have never met otherwise,
Totally.
and they're just the coolest group of people. I mean, honestly. So I am going to keep doing that, but I do want to write because I think I'm a little bit like you, where I don't want to tell people like a list of,
Mm-mm.
you have like a recommended list of travel.
Mm-mm.
That's something people have to
Mm-hmm.
figure out on their own. I can say I went somewhere and tell people what I loved about it or what I didn't like about it. They can use that info however they want. But oh yeah, you got to go to Fiji or you got to go to, the tropics. That's not for
Mm-mm.
everybody. I don't, I'm for me, when it comes to like the home design thing, if the tropics aren't your thing, that's perfectly okay. The goal is use inspiration of your favorite places to connect those wonderful, amazing trips, through artwork, the use of color, furnishings, if there's anything you can buy maybe that's produced in that country. Usually you can buy it cheaper overseas if you can afford to have it shipped to do it. Just anything that you can do to recreate that little space. That's what I'm all about. I mean, obviously my focus is on the tropics because I absolutely love them and I love the cultures and the people and
Yeah.
just the people are amazing. The people of Fiji are actually just some truly amazing people. If you're ever in the mood to get down to a South Pacific place, Fijians are just fabulous people. Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean
So,
it's always about the
yeah,
people, right? I mean,
it
that's really
is.
why
It
we do
is.
these things. We can take
Yep.
away other things, but for me, it's always that. I was just in Colombia, well, a year ago for 3 weeks. I celebrated my 50th birthday there, and it was in Colombia.
Yep.
And Colombia, I don't know if you've been, but it's
I have not been. I would
yeah,
love
and
to
they have
go.
beautiful beaches there. So, beautiful, magical place. Love the people. The people are like, there's something about Colombians. I love South America anyway. I've been to many countries, but
Hmm.
Colombia is the standout for me, Colombia and Peru. But it's also, I would have loved Colombia no matter what. But the people that I traveled with, I met up with some Germans and Australians and Brits and whatever. Um, the fun that we had and there was a few Colombians in there as well. But yeah, it's always about the people. Those are the things you think
Yep.
about. I don't often go home and think about, oh, that tree I saw or whatever. Like, it's about those moments that you have with random people that make or break the trip. Always, always, always. For me, it's always about the people, which is why I called my book The
Yep.
People You Meet, because yeah, without them, I mean, I don't know that I would go. Hmm.
Well, that's true. I mean, that some people they're very happy just going to a beach or sitting out by a pool. But I'm like, why would you travel halfway around the world to do that when you can do that right here in Texas or wherever?
Yeah.
It is about the people and that particular resort that we stayed at in Fiji. It was very authentic Fijian. And I found out that my wife and I really had the real deal because we had met some other guests who were there who I think came from a background with some money because they had traveled. They were like doing a tour of these resorts, and this was the last one they were at. They said it was the best one they were
Mm.
at because it was a really authentic Fijian adventure. It was very 5 star, very nice. But the people who worked at the resort, they lived on an island that was just 5 minutes away by boat. So they would just boat across it over there to go home at the end of the day and then come back. And you could go do their little village tour. And that's what got me going. And I'm wondering some days I'm like, what was I just insane by trying to start this whole business? But by going to their little community center there and buying some of their artwork and bringing it home, that's when this started for me.
Oh,
And
cool.
and yeah, that's when this started. And the money that they made went to their little village. They gave you a tour of the village. They showed you their little school and everything. And they were trying at the time to raise funds to build a bulkhead of some sort where they would dock their boats because they were having an erosion issue. So they were raising money for this. And I thought, if I could just connect with some of these artists, promote their work here in the US, sell it through a website or however, and I'm working directly with the artist, there is no middleman. They get the money. That was the initial plan. And then just as we get going, we build the website on blogging is when
Mm.
COVID hit. Everything came to a grinding halt. Those people in Fiji had it pretty rough. They weren't even allowed to travel inter-island. All the resorts had closed down. And most people there do know farming, but with farming, you have to be able to then sell whatever it is you're growing. They weren't even allowed to go to market. It was a pretty bad time for folks in Fiji. And as soon as they reopened, we wanted to pick up where we had left off, but then travel costs had gone through the
Mm.
roof. I mean, shipping to import or cost to import, they still haven't come down. It's still 3 times what it was back in
Mm.
2020. So it is very expensive to import and then resell here in the US. I mean, you've got to be able to resell whatever you're importing. So that's where I've branched out and I'm trying to just find other ways where I can be supportive of the communities there, the artists that I know, still promoting their work. If I can't import it, I'm sending people directly to their Facebook pages or the few that do have a website, somehow connect. Just anything, really anything I can think
Mm-hmm.
of, because, and what you can get down there in terms of artwork, it's just beautiful. You find pieces here and there on eBay or on Amazon or whatever, people that have bought things and they're reselling. But it's just such a fascinating history of their art and their culture. And when you look at Fiji compared to Tonga, compared to Samoa and Hawaii, they're all very, very different. You learn what is Polynesian and what isn't. People think Fiji is part of Polynesia, and it's not. Very, very different between Tahiti and Fiji in terms of art and culture. There's similarities, but when you really start looking at the fine points, they're very
Mm.
different places. The history of tiki, I thought, was very interesting too. I did a whole blog post about the history of tiki and how it morphed into the whole Americana thing we had here back in the 1950s, and I love that stuff. I
Yeah,
just
that's great.
when you when you find a culture that you like, oh, I need to take it apart and see what makes it tick.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Good for you. Yeah, very exciting. And it's
Yeah.
nice to have that connection to local people through art, and that that
Yes,
community connection, and that helps those communities
it
big
does.
time. Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen when you've traveled, everybody has their things for
Oh my
sale.
God. Yeah.
There's
I've learned my lesson. I was in Guatemala in my 30s, early 30s,
hmm
29 maybe. And there's a market there called Chichi Castananga. Is that what it's called? Chichi? It's called Chichi. And it's the most amazing market ever. And I walked out of there just covered in every colored fabric known to
Yeah.
mankind. So I don't do that anymore because you just can't, but it's hard in the moment not to get into it. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. And it's so different,
It is
right, than
fun.
our lives at home.
It is. And they're so happy, and it's not just that you're buying something. I mean, I think they're genuinely happy that someone cares enough to buy, thinks that what they've produced is beautiful, that, oh, yes, they're going to take it back to America with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. But yeah, you have to watch because
Oh,
you can spend too much and then you get home going, where am I going to
yeah,
put
and
all
I'll
this?
never wear this or, whatever. But are you good at bartering?
Yeah.
I'm terrible. How do you do with that?
I'm, you know what? I haven't had a lot of
Mm,
exposure to it, but I don't think I would be very good
it's
at it. I'd
awful.
be like, just,
Well, the problem
yeah,
is that they love it. Like they want you to do it and I just can't. So but they want the back and forth. That's what they're there for. They're game for it. And when you don't participate in that, they're kind of like whatever.
well, I'm
uh,
like, but a lot of the stuff they sell is not
yeah.
expensive though. I mean, in Fiji, I'm like, I'm paying you full price. This is cheap
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me. I
yeah.
don't need to bargain
Yeah,
with
but
you.
it's part of the experience, right?
Yeah,
They love it. Yeah.
it is. It
So,
is.
mhm.
So, oh, well, I just loved having you on the show, Melissa. I think, as I said, I'm going to direct people to your podcast because I think there's just a lot of very, very valuable information there, especially for people who've never
Mm.
traveled, people who are thinking about it. You can learn so much. And I'm hoping we can stay connected somehow. If you have any new adventures that you could share, I do always like to tie that cultural authenticity to the home because, just very, very quickly, before I got into all of this, I had a big background in real estate and mortgage banking. And, when I was a realtor in Southern California, again, and it doesn't matter where you're a realtor, in Ontario, it's the same thing. You're dealing with the most expensive thing somebody is ever going to buy
Yeah.
is a home. And then when they have to sell it, it's their place, it's their home. I mean, it's a big deal when people have to sell and move to somewhere else. And that's where I really learned that home is important. Too many people take it so for granted. They go to work, they're in the daily struggle to survive, and paycheck to paycheck and all of this and raising your families. And I think the home itself is just neglected, and it can be such a wonderful place to recharge if you just make one room special. If you can't do the whole house, just make one room, that place that you can go and reconnect and do things like listen to this podcast, listen to your podcast, start to imagine and really just take it in and let those things speak to you in a way that only it's going to create an interpretation that means something only for yourself as the listener. And then it's up to you to decide what to do with that. But that's one thing I really promote. And I think with what you've done and what you've provided, you've given a lot of food for thought out there for people to do the same thing. So I thank
Mm.
you for that. And I will definitely encourage people to read your book. And if we do have an opportunity to meet up again, I think it would
Oh,
be
I
wonderful.
love that. Thank you so much. I do appreciate all of your time and great questions. So thank you.
Oh, sure. So any closing parting thoughts you'd like to give the listeners here, or I'm just going to send people to your
Certainly
website?
do that.
To your podcast.
But yeah, I think that no matter what adventure means to you, you need to do it. So I think some people get very stuck on comparing what their adventure should look like compared to what other people have going on, and do not do that. Find your own adventure. No one should be judging you. You're the only person that has to sleep at night with the life that you're living. So go out there and do something.
Yes, good point. Wonderful. All right, Melissa. Well, thank you so very much for taking time out of your schedule. I really appreciate it. And to all of our listeners out there, tune in again next week to Tropical Escapes at Home, where we are going to have just more awesome info for you to consider about how to create your own tropical escape, get out there and travel, whether it's to the tropics or not. Go and discover a part of this world that you've never seen before that you really want to check out. Thanks so much again. Take care.
Thank you.